The Galactic Council had seen many species rise and fall across the stars. They had witnessed warriors forged in gravity 3 times that of Earth, predators whose reflexes could snatch plasma bolts from the air, and hive minds that calculate dance strategies across 1,000 vessels simultaneously. But humans? Humans were a curiosity, a species that had clawed its way to the stars, not through superior strength or cunning, but through something the Council deemed a fatal weakness: compassion. Kor had believed this without question. The Vraxian commander stood nearly 8 feet tall, his exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lights of the burning colony. His species had evolved on a world where only the ruthless survived, where leaving the weak behind was not cruelty but necessity. He had fought in 17 campaigns, raised 4 civilizations, and never once doubted the supremacy of strength over sentiment. Then he met Mira. She was assigned to his unit as a cultural liaison, a human word for someone who would supposedly help bridge the gap between species. Kor had laughed when he first saw her. She stood barely over 5 feet, her frame slender, her skin unmarked by the scars of battle. She smiled too easily, spoke too softly, and worst of all, she carried supplies for others when they fell behind on marches. "Soft," the other Vraxians whispered. "She will die first when the fighting begins." Kor had agreed. The raid on Prithia 7 was supposed to be routine. The colony had been overrun by Scourge mechs, autonomous war machines left over from a conflict 2 centuries old. The mechs had awakened, their programming corrupted, and now they slaughtered anything with a heat signature. The Council's orders were clear: evacuate survivors, destroy the mechs, leave nothing behind that could spread the contamination. The battle was fierce. Plasma fire lit the night sky like artificial stars, and the screams of dying colonists echoed through the burning streets. Kor fought with the precision of his kind, his claws ripping through metal and circuitry, his tactical mind 3 steps ahead of every enemy movement. But then the building collapsed. A residential tower, 6 stories tall, came crashing down in a cascade of fire and twisted steel. The explosion had been catastrophic, a fuel line rupture that turned the structure into a crematorium. No one inside could have survived. "Move forward," Kor commanded. "The sector is lost." That's when he heard Mira's voice crackle over the comm. "There's a child inside." Kor's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Impossible. No life signs registered. The scanners are wrong." Her voice was calm, but there was something underneath it, something hard as diamond. "I saw movement on the 3rd floor before the collapse. A juvenile Calrosian. I'm going in." "Negative." Kor's voice was a roar. "That structure will collapse completely in under 2 minutes. You'll die for nothing." There was a pause. Then, "Maybe. But I won't leave a child to burn alone." The comm went silent. Kor watched through his tactical visor as Mira's heat signature moved toward the inferno. The building was a towering pillar of flame, the heat so intense that his sensors showed surface temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees. The air itself was on fire. Nothing organic could survive that environment, not even for seconds. Yet Mira ran toward it. She wrapped her jacket around her face, soaked it with water from her canteen, and plunged into the flames. Kor stood frozen. His tactical training screamed at him to continue the mission, to leave the foolish human to her fate. But some incomprehensible urge made him watch, made him wait. 90 seconds. The building groaned, support beams snapping like brittle bones. Flames roared higher, consuming oxygen, consuming everything. Kor's sensors showed the internal temperature spiking. No one could survive that. No one. 60 seconds. His claws dug into his palms. Around him, even the battle-hardened Vraxians had stopped fighting to watch the burning tower. The Scourge mechs, their targeting systems focused on larger threats, ignored the lone human signature inside. 30 seconds. Then she emerged. Mira stumbled out of the flames, her jacket burned away, her skin blistered and blackened, smoke rising from her hair. But in her arms, clutched against her chest with a grip that death itself could not break, was a small Calrosian cub, its fur singed, but its eyes open and alive. She collapsed 3 steps from the building. The tower came down behind her with a roar like the death of gods. But Mira had already curled her body around the cub, shielding it from the debris and heat with her own flesh. Kor reached her first. He knelt beside the human, his medical scanner already working. 3rd-degree burns across 40% of her body. Smoke inhalation. 2 cracked ribs. Severe dehydration. By all rights, she should have been dead 3 times over. But she was smiling. Got him, she whispered, her voice raw from smoke. The cub in her arms chirped softly, confused, but alive. Kor stared at her. And for the first time in his long life, he felt something his species had no word for. The Vraxians called it weakness, to care for those who could not fight. They called it foolishness to risk the strong for the weak. But as he lifted Mira gently into his arms, this small, soft, impossibly fragile human who had walked through flames for a child not even of her own species, Kor realized something that would haunt him for the rest of his days. They had been wrong about everything. Strength was not measured in exoskeletons or reflexes. It was not found in claws or tactical brilliance. True strength, the kind that made the difference between extinction and survival, between darkness and light, was found in the willingness to burn for someone else. As the medevac ships descended and the battle wound to a close, Kor stood watch over the human medics, working frantically to save Mira's life. The Calrosian cub refused to leave her side, its small paw resting against her burned hand. Other species might have been forged in fire, but humans? Humans walked through it willingly, carrying others in their arms. And that, Kor understood now, was why they would inherit the galaxy, not because they were the strongest, but because they were strong enough to be soft.